Okay, so welcome everyone, JLA Trust and Services presentation for February 28th, 2024. Sometimes I get a little sticky on my slides. All right, today we're going to be covering some key government benefits, not all of them, but the most important ones federally and state, and then why you might need a special needs trust to help you keep those benefits. And then we'll get into pooled special needs trust, which is the kind of special needs trust that our nonprofit agency provides. And then talk a little bit about something, a service that we offer that's particularly useful to parents planning ahead, and that's the future funded accounts. And then at the end, we're just going to hit very, very briefly on CalAble, which are like 529 tax advantaged accounts. And CalAble has their own presentations on them. So if you want to have the full hour presentation on CalAble, that is available through their website at calable.org. But let's jump in. So what's the main problem we're trying to solve? It is how can a person with disabilities keep their eligibility for as many government benefits as possible and also receive lump sum payments from an inheritance, a legal settlement, from winning the lottery. Any of those things would be reasons that might trigger the need for a special needs trust. So government benefit programs often have different criteria. So even if you have the qualifying disability condition, whether that's a mental health condition, developmental, intellectual, or chronic physical condition, you still have to meet asset limits and sometimes income limits. And government benefits are really important to someone's well-being and wellness, but unfortunately, they barely get you to the federal poverty level. And you can see what those numbers are for 2024. And of course, anywhere in California, $15,000 is not going to be enough to have any kind of a life unless you have a subsidized housing of some sort, or perhaps a group home. So on the left-hand side of this chart is what we call need-based benefits. So the government is going to be looking particularly at your income level. On the right side, those are benefits that pretty much any U.S. citizen can get if they meet the eligibility and it is not income dependent. So on the left-hand side, we see supplemental security income, known as SSI. That is generally for younger people with disabilities who do not have a work record, or older people over 65 who are very low income and never had a chance to earn very much money. So they're not going to qualify for Social Security retirement. And then also partially need-based at this point is Medi-Cal, which is California's Medicaid health insurance system. So as we'll talk about in a few minutes, Medi-Cal, only in California, please mute yourself. Medi-Cal has eliminated asset limits in the state of California as of January 1st, 2024. There are still monthly income limits, but the asset limit has been removed. So that's big news. And then on the right-hand side, you see SSDI. That stands for Social Security Disability Income. And anybody who has enough of a work record and then becomes disabled is able to keep getting monthly cash grants through SSDI. And also adult disabled children of parents who earned enough money to be earning Social Security retirement, those adult children can also earn and receive a monthly cash grant. And then, of course, we have Medicare, which is our national health insurance program for any U.S. citizen over the age of 65. Also, many younger people with disabilities end up qualifying for Medicare. So I like to say the goal is to get as many pieces of the puzzle as you can. And we have many adult beneficiaries who have all four. They have Medi-Cal, SSI, SSDI, either on their own earnings records or their parents, and they have Medicare. If you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare, say that 3 times fast, that's known as Medi-Medi or dual eligible. So this is a really important benefit that a lot of people don't know about.
Okay.
It's called disabled adult child. Sometimes you might hear it referred to as childhood disabled beneficiary. This is through the federal government. And what the federal government is saying is if there is a parent who worked at least the 40 quarters and earned enough money to get Social Security retirement, and they have an adult disabled child who is now over the age of 18, but here's the kicker, was diagnosed before the age of 22, that adult child can receive a monthly cash grant from the federal government when the parent retires and starts to get their own Social Security retirement, or when the parent becomes disabled, or sadly, if the parent dies. So the adult disabled child gets 50% of what that parent is getting every month in their retirement check while the parent is alive, and then after the parent passes, that adult child with a disability can receive 75% of the parent's Social Security. So just to put some numbers on this, simple numbers, let's say the parent is getting $1,200 a month. While the parent is alive, that adult disabled child will get a separate check for $600. After that parent passes away, that adult disabled child will get a check for $900 a month. And that will change over time with cost of living increases, by the way. The question always comes up, can you collect from both parents? No, you can only collect from one parent. And this is in effect even if the parent is divorced. So a very important benefit that a lot of people don't know about, and it's fairly simple to apply for it when you apply for your retirement benefit as a parent. Alrighty, I seem to be stuck. Okay, what is SSI? That's that supplemental security income, and here's our 2024 numbers. You can earn, a person who is getting SSI can go out and get a job or be self-employed and earn up to $1,550 a month without losing their SSI. Most people are going to get a cash benefit in California right now for $1,182.94. Most of that is from the federal government, and then there's California is one of the few states that adds a supplement. So that's the breakdown. And so to get SSI, you have to have a proven disability by a medical doctor that meets federal criteria. You have to have limited earned income of, $1,550 or below. And this is the tough one. You can only have $2,000 in a checking account, a savings account, stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, any investment vehicle. You can only have $2,000. It's a terribly outdated law. There's a movement in Congress to change that to $10,000. Maybe it'll change, maybe it won't. But for now, it's only $2,000. And one of the good things about SSI is you only need $1 of SSI, and then you get this automatic, it's called categorical linked Medicaid. So in California, if you're getting at least $1 of SSI, you can get Medi-Cal. And you'll get the best kind of Medi-Cal. There's many different types of Medi-Cal. Some of them have share of cost. some of them have co-payments. With this categorically linked Medi-Cal, there's no co-pays and there's no share of cost. So even though there's a fair amount of red tape and it's a pain to get and keep SSI, it's also extremely beneficial to go ahead and apply for SSI and to do whatever you can to keep SSI. So the government does not count many resources, including one home that a person lives in. It cannot be a rental property that you're just renting out. The person with the disability has to live in the house most of the year. You can buy at least one car. There are some exceptions. You can have a small life insurance policy, burial plots, burial fund, and any kind of household goods. But again, you're not allowed to have more than $2,000 at any one time if you want to keep your eligibility for SSI. The law, it's outdated from the mid-1970s and has not been adjusted for cost of living increases and inflation. SSI, the Social Security Administration, has its own unique definitions for income. You'll see them here. Unearned income is pretty much anything you earn, anything you receive without having to do any employment. And then earned income, that would be from any kind of work or owning your own company or selling some stuff on Etsy, anything you're actively doing in the world of employment, that would be considered earned income. With unearned income, you lose a dollar for dollar of your SSI benefit. Earned income, you lose 50 cents on the dollar. SSI has this rule. It's a very outdated and a pretty ridiculous rule called In-Kind Services and Maintenance, ISM. So the federal government says, if you're a beneficiary and you're getting SSI, and if anybody else is helping you with these particular categories, you don't need so much money from the federal government. So we're going to reduce your federal share by 1/3 plus $20. So if anybody else, including your special needs trust, pays for your food, mortgage, property taxes, rent, heating, fuel, gas, electricity, water, sewer, and garbage removal, the Fed will they will deduct 1/3 of the federal share plus $20. So you want to avoid that if you can. Food is pretty soon there should be a new ruling about food. Food is supposed to be eliminated from this list because we all know the high cost of food and how much it costs to buy groceries or eat out. So that ruling should be, or it's actually a new federal rule should be coming down pretty soon. Okay, what is Medi-Cal? So that is California's Medicaid program. So when you hear Congress talking about Medicaid and should there be changes to Medicaid, should there be more limits, in California, that's our Medi-Cal program. And it pays for a lot of medical expenses. It pays for hospitalizations, doctor visits, also things like wheelchairs, insulin pumps. It pays for prescription meds as long as the medicine is on the formulary. Can also pay for end of life. You have to be low income, but as I mentioned in the beginning, the asset limit for Medi-Cal has been removed by the state of California. You can have both Medi-Cal and Medicare. That's sometimes called Medi-Medi or dual eligible. You can also have private insurance from like an employer or Covered California and Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal is always going to be the secondary or the tertiary payer because their reimbursement provider rates are so low. Okay, we're getting to the end of the benefits and then I'll take a pause. What is IHSS, In-Home Supportive Services? That is a state of California Medi-Cal program. You have to be receiving Medi-Cal first in order to be eligible for in-home supportive services. It's a program where the state of California will pay for someone to come into a beneficiary's home someone with a disability or someone over 65 who is poor and needs help. And caregivers are paid a minimum wage. In LA County, it's now up to $17.50 an hour. The local county Department of Social Services will come out and do an assessment and determine how many hours a day. And it's for very basic activities of daily living. So we're talking about things like help getting out of bed, help going to the toilet, getting dressed, eating breakfast, taking your pills, taking a shower. So it has to be those kind of, if someone needs help with those basic kinds of day-to-day assistance. And the maximum you can get through the state through this program is 283 hours a month. There are other programs if you need nursing care at home, but they're separate. They're separate than the IHSS program. And family members can be paid, either family members who live in the home with a person with a disability, or it could be a family person who lives elsewhere. And this chart is showing how benefits can change over the lifetime of a person. Things change once a child becomes 18, even if they have a severe disability. In the eyes of the law, that person is independent unless otherwise notified. So unless there's a conservatorship or power of attorney, unless there's some affirmative legal action taken at age 18, the person with, even a person like I said, with an extremely severe disability is considered to be an independent adult. And then this shows that, there's a possibility of an adult disabled child getting some money when the parent retires and when the parent passes away. People who get SSI and IHSS can also get CalFresh, known as more colloquially as food stamps. The income level is a little bit different. It's 200 of federal poverty level. And if the disabled adult child is living at home with their parents or another relative, that disabled adult child has to be over the age of 22 to apply for food stamps. And as I mentioned, the Medi-Cal asset limit is gone. Poof. Things could change, but that's how things stand right now, which is very exciting. And I'm going to pause here before we get into how to keep all those benefits. Alexandra, what kind of questions do we have?
So the first one is that most trustees in Maryland want 1 million or more to set up a trust. And if you have half, what can you do? How can you find one?
So Pool Trust, we're a nonprofit in the state of California. We can only sign up and enroll participants who live in the state. But every state has at least one or two pool trusts. So if we get the email of the person in Maryland, I'm happy to send the websites of our sister agencies.
I actually pulled it up. I can
okay, great.
I can, here's a link I'll put in chat. This is just a link. We don't collect this ourselves, but this is just a link to pooled trusts around the country. A lot of what Michelle will get into later in the presentation, we'll talk about how pooled trusts help people in exactly the situation that you're in, which is a lot of private trustees. You need to have a ton of money before they even consider setting up for you. So that's in chat. How do you have both SSI and SSDI? I was told we couldn't do that. Where can I find more information about this?
So it really depends on what the income coming in is. So you have to be under that threshold of like $1,600. So some people end up getting more than $1,600 in SSDI, and then they would lose their SSI. But there is a way to still keep some of the benefits that you were enjoying as an SSI recipient. It's a very complicated, it's a complicated loophole known as the Pickle Amendment. I'm not kidding. There was I think he was a representative in the House of Representatives in Congress. Anyway, there's something called the Pickle Amendment. So if somebody was previously eligible for SSI and then they start receiving SSDI based on the parents' earning record, they're able to keep many of the
So
benefits
here
of
was a class.
SSI through that Pickle Amendment. So it's an obscure but helpful thing to know. Okay.
Okay. So I'm 69 years old now. I have Social Security. My son was disabled until I was 67. I never received more money for having my son, and I'm collecting SSI and SSDI. Should he have been benefiting from my Social Security? He is off SSI now and working. Could I go back and collect for the past 7 years? He's still living with me.
Yeah, so there is a family maximum of how much in any one household you can collect from people receiving a combination of SSI and SSDI. And I think that in this case, you exceeded that household limit. So unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be any retroactive money coming in.
If someone is conserved, can they receive SSI?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if someone is conserved, the conservator will become the rep payee for that SSI recipient.
So this question is every state different? I'm not in California.
Every state runs a different Medicaid system because there's a bunch of federal dollars that come into every state depending on their public policy and some politics. But every state gets some Medicaid dollars. Some states like California add a lot of extra state money. There are other states that do not add much state money. Florida and Texas are actually well known for not adding any extra state money. So it really, Medicaid varies very much state to state. SSI and SSDI are administered federally the same across the country, and they're administered through your local Social Security field office.
How would you initiate the Pickle Amendment?
You have to call you'd have to call or send an email. Sometimes people end up doing this in the appeal process.
If a parent receives pension and names the disabled adult child as a joint recipient and the child gets over income limits and his share of that pension, will that prevent him from getting any government benefits? Can we name the special needs trust to receive the pension?
I'll work up from the bottom. A special needs trust can receive a pension. We have several adult clients for whom we are doing that. But the problem is the joint recipient. So usually what has to happen is that child can't be named until the parent is either not taking the benefit or passes away, most typically after the parent passes away and becomes kind of the successor beneficiary to that pension. You should talk to your pension. There are people in every pension, like especially like I know the teachers, like the teachers' pension and CalPERS, big government pensions. They have specialists on their staff that should be able to advise you on that.
It is true, though, that if you don't have that going to a special needs trust, if it is instead going to the individual, it could limit their benefits, though.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. If there's an adult child and they are the named successor beneficiary for that pension, and it exceeds $2,000 a month, they will not be able to keep their SSI unless that money is directed to a special needs trust.
Can a child who receives IHSS benefits continue to receive that after the age of 18 if the sorry, I lost it. If the child is not conserved?
The IHSS doesn't matter if the person's conserved or not conserved. The IHSS well, first of all, you have to be on Medi-Cal. Secondly, you have to be at home. You can't get IHSS in a group home or any kind of institutional living arrangement.
Sherry, do you have something to add?
I just wanted to say I get a small pension because I worked at Security Pacific Bank. And when I did the paperwork and I asked to have my son's special needs trust be the beneficiary after I pass away, it took several conversations, and this was with Bank of America, in order for them to approve that. They kept saying, no, when you pass, then it'll, switch over. And I'm like, well, who's going to do that? I'm trying to set everything up now. So, so that things will be proper. So I just want to say, if the first person says to you that it cannot be done, that's not necessarily correct, and ask to speak to a supervisor or manager, because it can be done. It's just that some people who you speak to on the phone might not be aware.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, quite often when you start getting, and these are pretty complex, individualized questions, when you start getting in those complex questions and gray areas, you will often need to speak to a supervisor. And don't be afraid to ask for that. If you're denied, don't be afraid to ask for an appeal.
Okay, so I have a client that is pending to receive a large inheritance and SSI benefits have stopped. SSI office wants inheritance documentation, which is not finalized at this time. What do you recommend?
So what I suspect is with that large inheritance, that the executor of that estate has already done some things that triggered the IRS, right? That some sort of claims have been made, or some money has been withdrawn from a bank account or a brokerage account. So once the IRS is notified, they share their information with the other government agencies. So I would recommend setting up that special trust tomorrow, so that inheritance can go into the special needs trust and not to the individual with special needs.
Yeah, it looks like the client notified SSI themselves.
Oh, well, well, there you go. I know they were just trying to do the right thing. I mean, which I think is very admirable, but unfortunately, sometimes when you do the admirable thing, it comes back and, kicks you in the face.
All right, well, that looks like we are done with questions for this segment. And I think Michelle's gonna keep going.
Oh, Leslie has her hand up.
I'm sorry,
sorry.
I couldn't figure out how to put the little hand up there to say, hey, I got a question. Okay, now earlier on a couple of slides back, there was a comment that was made, or a printout that was said that you could earn the person, if they were getting Social Security and SSI, that they could also get up to $1,550 in California in earned income. Okay, well, I am now taking care of somebody who is now living with me, and not only went to Social Security, but talked to them for, after on hold also for 6 hours of trying to find and getting somebody that because she's getting Social Security, SSDI and SSI, could only earn $85 a month.
Yeah, that's because she's butting up against that $1,600 overall limit. That's why. So
the first guy told us she could work, even with Social Security, the SSDI and SSI, she could work 13 hours a week. Okay, we did that. And then they came back and they said, because she earned 13 hours a week in income, we want all our SSI back.
Yeah.
And now they're asking for all of her SSI back. At no point in time did he say, with all of her incomes combined, she can only make X amount of dollars.
They got confused. I think the first person, to be honest, got confused. But you can appeal it. You can say it's a hardship and we can't pay it back. Definitely appeal it. There's a hardship exemption.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to appeal.
Yeah, because it's like $5,500.
Yeah, no. Definitely appeal. Say it's a financial hardship.
Especially since that's what we were told.
Yeah, do you have it in writing? Or probably not,
Of
unfortunately.
course not.
Yeah,
I mean, my notes, extensive notes, because we
Yeah.
sat there with him.
I
But the-
think that person didn't realize that they were butting up against that overall amount. Now, the only way around it would be the ABLE account, which I'll get to at the end.
The CalAble, that's
Yeah.
the CalAble, right?
Yeah. So that
Right.
would be the way for this person to keep earning money and keep SSI.
No, because they go by her monthly gross. What's her monthly gross income? So
I know,
even
but
if we're throwing money into CalAble, they're still going by what is her earned grossly month income plus her SSI plus her SDI.
right. Yeah.
Because we tried that, and just staying under the $2,000 is a nightmare.
I know. I actually think two things. You should appeal it and you should call and I say this to everybody, when you start running into really big problems with the Social Security Administration, reach out to your congressperson, your congressional representative in the House of Representatives. They all have constituent deputies whose job it is to interface with with federal agencies. So, you're voting for these people. You're paying taxes. You have every right to contact your local congressional office make sure you get the right person who represents you. You have to be a constituent.
Yeah.
So I would definitely appeal it under a hardship, and I would reach out to the congressional office.
Okay.
And I'm curious how it ends up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle, do you have can we get can we email you with questions?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm not going to be able to provide too much more assistance beyond what I did today. Otherwise, I'd have to send you to like one of the legal agencies who provide the advocacy for this.
That's fine.
We're not able to provide ongoing advocacy for people who aren't enrolled clients.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
But public counsel has it, BetSetic to a certain extent, neighborhood legal services, all of those. It's just they're all backed up. They're all really backed up. So if you can, I would definitely appeal it under hardship and reach out to your congressional office.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to jump back in. I know all these benefits are very frustrating and extremely complicated. Yeah, let's take the most complicated programs and ask people who, by definition, are going to be, have at least one disability, often cognitive disabilities, and make them understand these extremely complicated programs. Yeah, it's very frustrating. All right, how do you keep all these benefits? So there's really two ways. One way is a special needs trust. Special needs trusts are a legal loophole that let a person with disability and who ends up with extra assets, keep all of their government benefits and also be able to have access to money in the trust and also have access, in most cases, to the investment income generated by the funds in the trust. Now, there are some provisos. Money in a special needs trust, once it's in there, it can only be used for the benefit of the beneficiary. You can't pull it out and use it for mom's cancer treatment or for dad's great small business idea. It has to be used for the beneficiary. And then once you set it up and you put money in, it is irrevocable, which means you cannot break it. You can't change your mind. You can decide you hate the trustee and ask the trustee to resign and name a successor trustee, but you cannot just, rescind and break it. So there's pros and there's cons. One sec. Okay, there's two main types of special needs trust. First party are assets that belong to the beneficiary from a legal settlement or unplanned inheritance. So this is when someone inherits money or a pension right into their name and their social security number. A third party special needs trust is when typically a parent or grandparent a wonderful family friend sets up a third-party special needs trust with money from the parent or the grandparents' own estate or bank account, and they set it up before they pass away. In their will or in their family trust, it specifically says, I want 50% of my assets to go to Billie Jean's Special Needs Trust. It has to say the word Special Needs Trust in a written document that's properly signed and executed, and it has to be done before the person dies. You cannot do it retroactively after someone passes away. So a lot of middle-class families will say, you know, we don't have that much money. We could just we could name a sibling or a cousin to be the trustee for this special needs trust. But the best practice in the field is to use a professional trustee, such as a licensed fiduciary, which I am and my colleague is, a bank, a law firm, or a commercial trust company. The problem with using all those great professionals, as someone pointed out at the beginning, those professionals mostly work with high net asset families, and they're going to want to see at least $1 million. And that's not $1 million later or $1 million maybe if, you know, a house is sold. They're going to want to see $1 million in cash that can be deposited. So that's a big problem for most middle class families. And then if you name a sibling or a first cousin or a family friend, keep in mind it's complicated to be a special needs trustee. You got to keep abreast of these government benefits. There's tax implications. There's a lot of confusing rules and regulations. And then there's the family tension, you know, where the person with a disability may text their sibling, you know, multiple times a day saying, I really want money, I don't know, for a sports car. I really want money for a Ferrari. Why won't you let me buy a Ferrari? And that could definitely create some interpersonal tensions. So what's the solution if you're not going to use a family member and you don't have over $1 million? The solution are these pooled trusts known as D4Cs in the Social Security Code. They were created by Congress in 1993. Congress said they had to be run by nonprofits and that the nonprofit has to develop a master trust agreement, which is like a big umbrella. And then people sign into that master trust with a simple legal agreement called a joinder agreement. It is a contract. It is a legal agreement. And like I said, please keep in mind that they're irrevocable. So you don't want to go down this path unless it's the right thing for you and your family. And then with these pooled trusts, there's going to be a sub-account for every beneficiary, and the money is just pooled for investment and cash management, similar to a mutual fund. So that's how we get the name pooled trust. But everyone has their own account, their own account number, and everyone has, the way we work it, everyone has so many units of an investment portfolio that's held in Charles Schwab. So why would a pooled trust be a good option for your family or for your clients? We have lower setup fees. Our enrollment fee for an active account is $1,300. If you went to a private trust and estate attorney, it's going to be a minimum of $3,000 to $5,000 for the setup fee. And then we have below market ongoing trustee fees that are considerably cheaper than what you would pay anywhere else. And also there's this weird little wrinkle that if someone is over 65 and they need a special needs trust, they have to use a pooled trust. So those are why a pooled trust might be a good option for you or your clients. We offer the first party trust that we were talking about. It's important to note with a first party trust that after the beneficiary dies and if there's money left over, Medi-Cal comes calling and they will present a very detailed claim of every time Medi-Cal spent money on that individual, whether it was in a hospital visit, a psych evaluation, or IHSS services, and they will ask to be paid back by the trustee. So the thing about the first party trust, there's not going to usually be money left over to pass on to family heirs. So you really want to plan ahead, and you want to do the third party trust. Money from the parents or the grandparents. There's no Medi-Cal pay. Oops. Sorry about that. I guess I got muted for a sec. And then we have an option for parents who want to plan ahead. We have something called the future funded option. So for a total of $800, you can set up a third party pool trust with our agency. You'll fill out all the paperwork. You'll share that paperwork with other family members, with attorneys, with the regional center if that's appropriate, and then with life insurance. And then after one or both of the parents pass away, typically money will come in from a life insurance policy, the sale of a family home, pension funds, 401k, IRA funds. And then once there's more than $20,000 in that sub-account, we can begin to disperse funds and we can pay for everything from rent to a trip to Disney World. So a wide variety of things that can be paid for out of a special needs trust. So here's some examples: cell phone, internet, clothes, shoes, computer, any medical and dental expenses that are not covered. Many of our clients are coming in as middle-aged adults, and they have terrible teeth, and they need to spend $10,000 or $15,000, really fixing up their teeth or getting good dentures. So that's a very common expense for our beneficiaries. Trips can absolutely be paid for. If the person requires an aid for either activities of daily living, getting dressed, going to the bathroom, wheelchair, or if the person needs help with behavioral interventions on a daily basis, the trust can pay all the travel expenses for the aid as well. The trust can also supplement any IHSS hours. The trust can also pay for a car as long as it's being used primarily to transport the beneficiary, and a car can be purchased even if the beneficiary is not able to drive. And excuse me. Also, you can purchase one home for the person to live in. You cannot purchase a rental property. I think it's probably a good time to take a break. What do we got?
All kinds of stuff. Can you do a third-party special needs trust for someone who is already under a conservatorship?
Absolutely, yes.
Can money?
So, yeah, just 1 second. So, there's a big difference between a conservatorship and a trust. So, a conservator, especially if you have let's say you have a limited DD conservatorship, which is probably the case for most people with us today. The conservator has a right to make decisions about where the person's going to live, who they're going to associate with, who they're going to marry. A trustee only has financial oversight over the money that's in a trust. So a conservator doesn't have automatic oversight over money that's in a trust. That's the role of the trustee. Some people, just to make things a little more confusing, are both conservator and trustee, but they are technically different legal roles.
Can money from the special needs trust be used for rent and utilities in addition to SSI?
Yes, it can, but there is that penalty. There is that ISM penalty right now. So We do let people who have a special needs trust use their trust funds to pay for rent and to pay for food, but they have to sign a waiver with us, recognizing that they may lose, 1/3 of the federal share of their monthly SSI check plus $20. Now, that does not happen under SSDI. So for our clients who are receiving SSDI and the trust pays for the rent, they don't have any money penalized or withheld.
Since Medi-Cal now allows unlimited amounts of assets, is a third-party special needs trust only a good idea for people who are conserved?
No. There's plenty of people who don't need to be conserved who still need help with money management. And so having the special needs trust gives you a professional to be, bill paying, investing the money, overall budgeting and spending.
There are also plenty of people who are not conserved who need SSI.
Yeah. Actually, most of our clients are not conserved, and we work directly with that client. So, that's not a barrier.
I'm not sure what this question is, Karen. What about a special needs trust for a 66-year-old?
You want to unmute? Yeah.
Hello. So my husband is autistic and he's already 66 years old, and I heard two conflicting informations. One was that he can still have an irrevocable Medi-Cal, I believe, a special needs trust, and another person said, who deals with government benefits, they said when he's 66, he can no longer have a special needs trust. Could you speak?
He can only have a pool. He can only enroll in a pool trust.
Oh yeah,
Right.
That's what you offer.
That is what we offer, yes.
Okay, so a pool trust is still possible.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. So,
Well, but we have to, is he living at home or in a nursing home?
at home.
As long as he's in a community-based placement, then a pooled special needs trust is a good idea. It's not the right option for someone who needs to be in a skilled nursing facility.
Yeah, he's not.
Okay, good.
And can existing investments be folded into this pool trust?
Unfortunately, our model, our business model is you would have to liquidate those assets, because we use these investment portfolios at Charles Schwab. So we need liquid assets to pour into them.
Okay. What can be done if someone has an investment account already? Is there any option to go and put that into some sort of a free form?
No, not over the age of 65, unfortunately.
That's where the limitation is.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. And what
I'm
is
sorry.
SSI? SSEI, you mentioned SSEI. What does that stand for?
I think I must have just misspelled, yeah.
SSDI.
SSD. Thank you.
And what's the difference between SSI and SSDI? Because our daughter receives SSI.
Yeah, so SSI is for people who never worked very much and they don't have an employment record. SSDI is for people who worked a certain number of quarters and earned certain amounts of money. And so they're getting, basically, when people say they're going on disability, they're going on SSDI. But what's confusing is, as I was saying early at the very beginning, an adult disabled child can get SSDI from a parent's, earnings record.
Interesting.
Somebody had to earn some money to qualify for Social Security retirement. And that's how you would get SSDI.
Retirement. I don't want to hog the microphone, but I have so many more questions. I will
I think,
quiet for now. Yeah.
Okay.
Let someone else speak.
Thank you.
Is the person expected to use SSI to pay rent and food?
Yes. So the federal government expects your first dollars are going to be for rent and food and essentials, SSI. So in fact, sometimes you might hear special needs trust referred to as a supplemental trust. So what that means is the money in a special needs trust is supposed to supplement, not supplant. So you're always supposed to use that SSI or the SSDI first for those day-to-day expenses.
Any other questions?
Okay, we're getting to the end here. All right. People are still hanging in there. I'm very impressed. Okay. One
May-
sec.
May I ask a question? Right now, I just put it in the chest. Just
No,
one.
hang on 1 minute, please. Okay?
Okay.
Hang on. All right. So we work closely with a financial services company called TrueLink. They're based in San Francisco. So they're all about using technology to help support people with disabilities, also older people with dementia. So TrueLink, they're the ones actually acting as our investment managers, and they're making the decisions on which stocks and bonds to put into our investment portfolios that are held in third-party accounts at Charles Schwab. And TrueLink is very responsive. They understand the needs of people with disabilities. So what's really nice is when you call their call center, you're getting somebody in the United States who has been really trained on how to work with people with a range of disabilities, including autism and TBI. And then what we do is we assign each of our active accounts to one of our amazing client service representatives. So it's not like calling Bank of America and you're talking to whoever answers the phone. You're going to be assigned a particular person with an email, a phone number, even the ability to text that person. And we develop an individual spending plan for each client. Most of our clients have a monthly allotment, and that gets loaded onto the card the first of every month. And it's really nice that a real personal relationship develops, which is really different than what you would have even if you were using the trust division at a bank. And then I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about the CalAble. Oops, I'm sorry. CalAble is part of a national ABLE program that was signed into law by President Obama. And they're tax-free savings accounts. They're modeled on the college saving 529 accounts. This is a way to save more than $2,000 without impacting your SSI. So the good news is you can save up to $18,000 a year, whatever the IRS gift tax exemption is in that calendar year. And you can go all the way up to $100,000 without impacting your SSI. So this is a good way to save money for any young person with a disability. So rather than opening up a savings account or a college savings account, it's much better to just open up a CalAble account. You can only open the CalAble account online. You cannot walk into any bank or financial institution. One problem is the disabling condition must have been diagnosed before the age of 26. And I know for some of our adults with serious mental illness, quite often they weren't getting those diagnoses till later than that. The age limit is increasing to age 46, but unfortunately that's 2 years off. You can only have one ABLE account per Social Security number, which is different than the college savings account. And the account can be opened by the beneficiary or any of these other people, authorized legal representatives. So that would be a parent for a minor, a legal guardian, a conservator, a power of attorney, or a rep payee. And you can spend the money pretty similar to what you could spend the money in a special needs trust. So that includes things like food, education, housing, transportation, healthcare. if you use the CalAble account to pay for rent, you don't run into that ISM penalty that you get with a special needs trust. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, you can only sign up for the CalAble account online. And in order to sign up, you have to have the date of birth, address, and social security number for the person on the account. So this is the link. This is the new link on how to set up the account. So what's nice is ABLE accounts and special needs trust can work together. So what a lot of people are doing is they're using ABLE accounts more like checking accounts, and then you use the special needs trust, the SNT, more like a long-term savings account with that fiduciary trustee oversight. You can move money between the two without any kind of penalties or fees. So the big picture is a lot of people with disabilities are going to need 3 different accounts. Some sort of checking account for the SSI or SSDI monthly money from the government, usually SSI or SSDI. And then also earned income from work if it's low earnings, and then the CalAble account if you're making more money, and then a third-party special needs trust for the larger gifts and inheritances. The third-party special needs trust becomes like the nest egg, like a retirement account. So it's something there for people with disabilities in their later years. Here's our contact information. And I'll stop sharing and take some questions.
All right.
Now I gotta go home and feed my cat.
Why is a pooled special needs trust not advisable for someone who is in a nursing home? We have a client who I am DPOA for, and we had to sell her house. We put the funds into a pooled first party special needs trust as it wasn't enough money to pay for her care. The money is used to pay for her quality of life activities and to pay for her DPOA. The money is also used to pay for a conservatorship of a person.
It has to do with the federal rules with Medicaid and long-term care. I would advise you to talk to an attorney who specializes in elder law. We do not do any we're not a law firm. We do not do any Medi-Cal planning. So that kind of question is really more of a Medi-Cal planning question and needs to be directed at an elder law attorney.
So what if the adult child receives SSI and lives in the parental home? Are they meant to use up all of the SSI money to contribute to the rent that their parents pay?
So, I mean, the reality in anywhere, almost anywhere in California, the rent in someone's home is going to be cover all their SSI or most of SSI. But what most people I know do is you actually sign a lease agreement with your adult child on SSI that they're going to pay. Let's say they're getting $1,000 a month in SSI, that $800 is going to go for rent and their share of basic utilities. So you're kind of like renting out one room in your house. And that becomes a little more reasonable from a fair market value.
Can an annuity be made payable directly to a CalAble account?
I'm not sure. I think so, but I think you would need to talk to a financial, that's like a financial advisor CPA question.
Harry and Matsuko, I'm not sure what this question, how about SSDI for CalAble? I'm not sure what the question is, if you want to unmute and ask. Okay. Who can be the beneficiary of a CalAble account?
So it's somebody who's getting SSI or SSDI, or you can self-certify that you would qualify for SSI or SSDI. Mostly it's people with a lifelong disability. So in other words, not a temporary disability, not, like breaking your leg for breaking your leg and that's going to heal. Someone with a lifelong disability who either is already getting SSI or SSDI or is anticipated will need SSI or SSDI down the road.
So the cap of 500,000, 29,000 causes like they want to know what the meaning of the cap is. Does it cause
So
SSI to be
actually,
taken
the
away?
cap, yeah, the cap with CalAble is it's actually 100,000 for SSI. The 529 is the cap for Medicaid. In California, that doesn't apply anymore because California removed that cap. But people from other states are able to enroll in California's CalAble program. So that's why that 529,000 is there. So what happens at $100,000 is you lose getting your monthly SSI check, and your SSI is suspended until your CalAble account falls below $100,000.
Can work income be deposited into a CalAble account?
Absolutely. And if you have earned income, you can go above that $18,000 a year. I think you can go all the way up to like $38,000 and still keep your SSI. So really the CalAble account, I really recommend, every family who's got a loved one with a lifelong disability, those CalAble accounts are a really good idea, rather than setting up, a savings account.
Do you set up a third-party trust as well?
Yes. Well, we only are doing pooled first party and pooled third party. We're not a trust and estate law firm. If you want a standalone third party trust, your friendly trust and estate attorney can help you with that.
The next question is, will the recording be emailed to those in attendance? Yes, I will be doing that.
I'll
we
put the last slide back at.
Yeah. Yep, lots of.
Oops. I gotta go all the way down to the end.
If the owner of a CalAble account passes away, can a beneficiary be designated to receive the balance at death of owner?
Hang on. I'm sorry. I usually am reading along.
This one was direct message to me.
Oh, okay. I'm not. Say it again, please.
If the owner of a CalAble account passes away,
Yeah.
can I think this is just a misuse of the word beneficiary. Can someone be designated to receive the balance at the death of the owner?
Yes. Yes. Like any, like any place where you have money, like an insurance product or a bank account, an IRA account, a 401b, you always designate a beneficiary if the person owning it passes away.
So the presentation explained that SSI recipients can have extra money and keep it. What about SSDI? Our son has been told that he cannot save money in the bank.
That is correct. You cannot, if you're on SSI, you cannot have more than $2,000 in a checking account, a savings account, stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, gold bullion. You can't. The only two legal places to keep that money is in a special needs trust or a CalAble account.
Okay, that's the end of the questions that I have.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Will this be, will we be able to get this recording? I missed the first part of the talk, the Zoom here. So will we be
Yes.
able to get it?
Yes, I will email it out to everybody who signed up.
Okay, thank you so much.
With the CalAble account, is there an upper limit? No, but for SSI, with the CalAble accounts, you can only have $100,000 in there. I mean, that's a lot of money. You can have $100,000 in there, and still have SSI. Once you go over $100,000 in the CalAble account, your SSI account is suspended, and you will not be reincarnated until you drop below 100,000 in the CalAble account. So let me, I can real quick grab the CalAble website. There's a simpler one, calable.ca.gov.
And
So the
grandparents,
California State Treasurer's Office is kind of the enforcement agency behind CalAble. Here it is, calable.ca.gov. And then you would go to open an account. And then you would, start the process here. So we are not connected directly with CalAble. CalAble is a completely separate program than our Pooled Special Needs Trust. But just know that money can move from the Pooled Special Needs Trust here at JLA to a CalAble account. Just like if you were moving money from Bank of America to a Fidelity account.
so if you were close to $100,000
Yeah.
in your CalAble account, you could move it.
You could absolutely do that, yeah. But you have to do proactive measures to move money from one place to the other.
Yeah.
You can enroll in CalAble if you're not a California resident. Most states have an ABLE program. There is a national clearinghouse I think it's called the ABLE Resource Center. And there's different advantages and disadvantages depending on what state you're in. A lot of the states have a Medi-Cal payback with the ABLE accounts. In California, there's very, very, very limited payback. So there's definitely, if you're living in other states, I recommend you go to this website, ablenrc.org. And they can go through every single state's ABLE accounts.
Can grandparents pay into the CalAble?
Absolutely. And also grandparents can also pay into a special needs trust. But don't do it through a GoFundMe. Some people, we've had a couple clients, God forbid someone got in a terrible accident, they ended up in a hospital, the family set up a GoFundMe, a bunch of money came in, but the GoFundMe account was linked directly to the beneficiary's checking account. All of a sudden, a beneficiary has $50,000 in their checking account and they lose their SSI. So those people had to create a first-party trust with us. So don't do that.
Do you act as a conservator as well as a successor trustee?
Not at the present time. We might be able to be a conservator, but there has to be a very substantial amount in the trust to pay for conservator fees. So for the most part, the answer is going to be no.
Oh, can we wire money into the CalAble from Germany?
I have no idea. Call the CalAble people. Okay. Well, thank you so much for people who stayed this whole time. I know it's a lot of information. I know we've got a lot of ages and stages represented here. Really appreciate all of you joining us.
And like I said, I will be sending out an email. You all registered through Eventbrite, so I have your information. I will send out the slides and a recording tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.